For over a century, humanity has been haunted by a single image, a creature lurking in the deep time of our oceans, a monster we built in our minds based on a few scattered clues. We told ourselves it was simply a great white shark, but scaled up to nightmare proportions. We put it in movies, we hung models of it in museums, and we convinced ourselves we understood it, but we were wrong. Almost everything we thought we knew about Megalodon was a lie. It wasn't until major research studies culminated in 2025 that the full picture finally came into focus, and the reality is far more disturbing and far more impressive than the fiction we created. This wasn't just a big shark. This was a biological anomaly that defied the rules of nature as we know them today. We used to think we knew how it looked. We used to think we knew how it hunted. We even thought we knew why it died. But new evidence has shattered those assumptions. We are talking about a predator that makes the modern great white look like a relic of the past. A creature that grew to the size of a blue whale, practiced a brutal form of survival before it was even born, and ruled the oceans for 19 million years. So, if it wasn't the monster we see in the movies, what was it? And more importantly, how does a creature that dominated the planet so completely simply vanish? We are about to change how you see the ocean forever. Hit subscribe right now so you don't get left on the surface. Let's dive in. To understand the truth, we have to go back to the mistake that started it all. The myth of the mega great white began with the teeth. When early paleontologists first discovered those massive fossilized triangles, some as big as a human hand, they looked at the serrated edges and the triangular shape and made the most logical assumption they could. It looks like a great white tooth, so the animal must be a giant great white. For decades, this single assumption held back paleontology. We classified Megalodon as Carcharodon megalodon, a direct close relative of the shark we see today. This is why every illustration you've ever seen looks like a stocky, bulky, torpedo-shaped tank. But as technology improved, scientists began to look closer. By the early 2000s and continuing into the breakthroughs of the last few years, researchers analyzed the microscopic details of those teeth. They looked at the roots, the enamel, and the distinct lack of certain evolutionary features found in great whites. The verdict was conclusive. Megalodon was an imposter. It belongs to an entirely different lineage known as the megatoothed sharks, or Otodontidae. Its scientific name is Otodus megalodon. It is not the father of the great white. It is a distant cousin that took a completely different evolutionary path, a path that favored size and power over everything else. Once we realized it wasn't a great white, the blueprint we had for its body fell apart if it didn't look like a great white. What did it look like? For years, that question went unanswered because sharks don't have bony skeletons. They have cartilage, which dissolves over time. We had the teeth, but we didn't have the body. That is, until the discovery of a rare set of fossilized vertebrae in Europe changed the equation. These vertebrae were the Rosetta Stone for Megalodon's true form. When scientists plugged this data into modern 3D reconstructions in 2025, the animal that emerged on the screen was shocking. The old estimates capped Megalodon at around 15 to 18 meters, roughly 50 to 60 feet. That is massive, certainly. But the new skeletal data suggests that because we were modeling it on the stocky great white, we were severely underestimating its length. The real Megalodon was likely far more hydrodynamic. It was sleek, slender, and elongated, possessing a body type more similar to a modern lemon shark than a great white. And because it was longer and leaner, it could grow to sizes we previously thought impossible. The updated data suggests that the largest individuals could have reached a staggering 24.3 meters. That is nearly 80 feet long. To put that into perspective, that is approaching the size of a modern blue whale. We are looking at an animal that could weigh up to 94 tons. This new slender build makes terrifying sense. A bulky, stocky animal of that size would have enormous drag. It would be slow and energy inefficient. But a sleek, elongated predator, that is an animal built for endurance. It suggests Megalodon wasn't just a coastal lurker, but a transoceanic traveler, capable of crossing entire ocean basins in search of calories. But if the size of the adult is frightening, the biology of the infant is the stuff of nightmares. One of the most unsettling revelations from recent research concerns the Megalodon's life cycle. You see, being an apex predator starts early, very early, based on the size of the vertebrae and growth. Rings, similar to counting rings on a tree, scientists have determined that Megalodon pups were born at a size of more than 3.5 meters. Think about that. A newborn baby megalodon was already larger than most adult sharks swimming in the ocean today. But how does a biological organism produce offspring that massive? The evidence points to a reproductive strategy called oophagy, or more bluntly, in utero cannibalism. Megalodon didn't lay eggs, and it didn't nurture a single helpless infant. Inside the mother's womb, the embryos would hatch, but they wouldn't just sit there. The first to hatch, or the strongest among them, would turn on their siblings. They would consume the unhatched eggs and likely even the other developed embryos. It was a biological cage match taking place inside the mother. The weak were consumed to fuel the strong. By the time the survivor was finally born, it wasn't a helpless pup. It was a 3.5-meter veteran of its first war, already a top-tier predator. The moment it entered the water, this ensured that from day one, Megalodon had almost no natural predators. So we have a creature that grows to the size of a whale, has a sleek body designed for global travel, and is born ready to kill. It ruled the oceans for nearly 19 million years, which begs the question, where is it? How does an animal that perfect simply disappear? For a long time, the prevailing theory was the cold. We know that around 3.6 million years ago, the Earth underwent significant cooling. The theory was that Megalodon, being a warm water creature, simply froze out of existence or couldn't handle the metabolic cost of keeping its massive body warm. But the 2025 studies suggest it wasn't the cold that killed them. It was hunger. Megalodon lived in a world of giants. Its primary food source was small to medium-sized whales. But as the epoch shifted, the ocean's ecosystem collapsed. The diversity of these whales plummeted. At the same time, the surviving whales began to migrate toward the freezing polar regions, waters that were too cold for Megalodon to follow. But the final nail in the coffin wasn't the climate. It was the competition. While Megalodon was ruling as the heavyweight champion, a new, younger contender was rising, the modern great white shark. Individually, a great white is nothing compared to a Megalodon. It would be like a house cat fighting a lion. But evolution doesn't care about strength, it cares about efficiency. Megalodon was expensive. A 94-ton body requires a catastrophic amount of food to function. If you miss a meal, you are in trouble. The great white, however, was agile, smaller, and required far less fuel. It was a tactical sniper compared to Megalodon's heavy artillery. As whale populations dropped and sea levels changed, destroying the shallow nurseries where those massive pups grew up, the great white outcompeted the giant. They ate the food before Megalodon could get there. They survived on scraps, while the giant starved waiting for a feast. It wasn't a bang, it was a slow, agonizing whimper. Of course, there are those who refuse to believe the story ends there. The internet is full of documentaries and viral videos claiming Megalodon is still alive. The most popular theory is that they retreated into the deep, specifically the Mariana Trench, and have been hiding there for 3 million years. It is a compelling story. It taps into our fear of the unknown, but scientifically it is impossible. Megalodon was not a deep-sea creature. We know from the chemistry of its teeth and bones that it was adapted for warm coastal waters. The deep ocean is freezing, crushing, and most importantly, empty. The Mariana Trench is a biological desert. There is simply not enough food down there to sustain a 94-ton predator. A population of megalodons would need a constant supply of massive whales, and whales do not go down there. Furthermore, a predator of that size leaves a mark. We would see the bite marks on whales that survived attacks. We would track the migration patterns of prey, avoiding certain zones. And perhaps most obviously, we would find a tooth. Sharks shed thousands of teeth over their lifetime. If Megalodon were here, we would be finding fresh teeth, teeth that aren't fossilized into stone. But every single tooth we have found, without exception, is millions of years old. The sightings, the photos, the dark shadows on Google Earth, they have all been debunked. They are basking sharks, sleeper sharks, or simply hoaxes designed to get clicks. The truth is, Megalodon is gone. But in a way, the reality that science has uncovered is far more satisfying than the myths. We don't need to invent a fake monster in the Mariana Trench because the real one was so much more impressive. We are talking about a creature that pushed the absolute boundaries of biology. A 24-meter leviathan that swam with the grace of a torpedo, birthed giants, and sat on the throne of the ocean for longer than humanity has existed. Its legacy isn't in some grainy conspiracy video, it's in the rock record, waiting for us to find the next piece of the puzzle. It reminds us that the ocean wasn't always ours, and for 19 million years there was something in the water that made sure everything else knew its place. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the prehistoric ocean, I want to hear from you. Do you think the new, sleek reconstruction of Megalodon makes it scarier than the old, bulky version? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be down there reading the best theories. Thanks for watching.